Okay, time for show and tell. Let's do the people that are out there first.
Dave Lyle is who we got. Dave?
Yeah, you have a picture? That's my first attempt at turning a cube. I learned a lot from it. Made a lot of mistakes that I had to remount it and things like that. That's one of the end versions of it.
Bring it up to the big monitor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna remove this spot. Yeah, remove his spotlight.
You have a couple more pictures?
Yeah.
There it is. Before it got finished, just a real nice piece of walnut. It's very small. The best I could do is my neighbor cut some cubes for me, and they were 3x3s. So it's not real big, but I'm real satisfied with it, the end result. Put a finial on it. A lid and a finial, that's spalted maple. The finial actually could be used for holding a few rings, so it could be used as a jewelry box. I like the color, the two of them together really look great.
Dave, I'm not familiar with cube turning. What is the origin here? The three corners I'm seeing on the top and bottom.
Okay.
How does the original cube orient in this?
By the way, this is the thing upside down, so you can use it right side up or upside down. So there it is, turned upside down. Well, think of a cube. A cube has 8 vertices or 8 corners. If you mount it between 2 of the corners, that is the opposite corners, when it's spinning around, then you have 2 sets of wings. So one of the things you're going to do is, first thing I did is I put a tenon on. By the way, I'm going to make up a document that I will submit at a later date and show how all the steps. But first thing you do is you're going to put a tenon on it. And once you get the tenon on, you can now reverse it and mount it in the chuck. And then you can work on the one end. In my case, I put a box on the one end, and that would be the top. And once you have the cube spinning around, like I said, you have 6 vertices that are spinning. 3 are on one side of the center and 3 are on the other side of the center. So you line up those vertices with your tool rest, and you mark them, and then very carefully find the center. And that's when you use a parting tool to start separating in between the two of them. You're not going to separate completely, but what you're going to do is you're going to make your wings. So then you're going to form the wings as close as possible to the same thickness. And then what I did, looking at this view right here, what I did is I put a piece of wood in the chuck, and I put some heavy rubber. Actually, it wasn't heavy rubber, but I put a piece of rubber, and I created basically a compression chuck. And think of this view that you have right now. I still have a tenon on the bottom of it. So now I brought up the tailstock and I compressed that against my piece of wood and piece of rubber, and the piece of wood fit almost nicely into the hole, but the rubber kind of gave that friction fit that you needed to keep it there. And then I finished the bottom of it just as a curve, as you could see from the one bottom when it was turned upside down. I'll make up a document that shows all the steps and make sure that you get that maybe by next month. Thank you. It was crazy. The first part, just trying to keep that cube on. I'd make a couple of cuts, and then I'd tighten the tailstock, make a couple of cuts, tighten the tailstock. Always had my face mask on and shield on, and always standing on one side until I could make that tenon. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Dave. Who's next?
Any more out there in Zoom land?
Now, we're doing both show and tell and the challenge for this month, which was a collaborative piece. No challenge responses out there. Okay, we're here in the room.
So this is a piece, it's an older piece, I think. Yeah, it's all from 2016. It's a collaborative piece. What I was doing at the time was doing a lot of wood burning and things like that. So my daughter actually made the pattern and the design on it, and I burned it into the piece. It's a Norway maple. You can see it's one of the ones where it turned green. It was nice and flat, but now it's
I wonder how you turned that wobble in there.
yeah. Well, I did it just to try a boomerang effect, you know. Anyway,
On its way to becoming a sombrero.
exactly. Anyway, that's I brought it. Obviously, I didn't do it this month. Got a few other ideas for collaboration, but there's very few people around the house that want to collaborate with me at these days. That's all I have.
How'd you get it then?
How do I get it bent? Well, just by turning it nice and thin and then letting it go. It just dried with time. I turned it wet.
Oh.
And then let it go.
You just let it be what it was.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about wet turning when you do that is that oftentimes with a textured piece like this, you can see it on the back here. Sorry, come back over here. One of the nice things about turning wet, and you can see it in the texture of that sort of thing, that it ripples, and it really adds another dimension to the piece that you can't get if you.
Yeah, like 3 dimensions.
Yeah, exactly. 4 dimensions now.
Four.
Anyway, who's next?
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is walnut. I have a hoodles of walnut like this here, like these pieces. Everything's end grain. This I just turned to see it. It's a barely finish, the end grain, but it's really pretty.
Now, why do you say it's a bear to finish end grain, Ben?
If you put enough of sealer on, and then sand the sealer off, and then put more on and sand it off. But I have probably about 20 pieces like this here, or bigger. I'm gonna leave these here just for whoever wants them for donation. And I have 2, Doug knows some of the walnut I have.
Yeah.
I have 2 48-inch cookies that are hollow with the, there's really not much. I made a couple coffee tables that I epoxied the center, but the ones I have it'll take probably 20 gallons of epoxy to fill it.
So there's some cookies on it? They're from a stump?
Yeah. Mhm. So I started cutting these out of the same piece, out of the cookie. So it makes real nice. It's really nice grain.
What did you finish it with?
I just put lacquer, about 3 or 4 coats of lacquer sealer.
Okay.
And then just used a wax finish on top of here. So if anybody's interested in it, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
So this was my collaboration piece. When I got home last month, my wife said, well, what's the challenge next month? I said, collaboration. She said, oh, who you working with? I said, you. So I said, I'm going to turn a platter and I want to try the Gilder's paste that Thomas did was it 2 months ago that he was in here and showed us. Tried that, and I need a lot of practice on that, but it was fun to try. And then she did the iris, and it came out really nice, just a piece of maple, kind of a pie plate pan kind of shape. So it was a fun project, and it got her to express her art stuff.
Did you put finish over top of her painting?
I did. I used polyacrylic to seal it in so it doesn't get scratched up too bad. So
What did she paint the flower with?
a brush.
Good. Not finger paints, huh?
I believe it was acrylics. Yeah.
On bare wood?
Well, I had sealed it after I got it turned and sanded. I put sealer on it, and then she painted on top of it that way in case she had to remove some she could without it soaking into the wood.
So
So
is that a Siberian iris?
it's purple. That's all I know. Because I want to call it a lily, but I was told it's not a lily. It's an iris, and that's all I don't know. I gave her liberty and said, go for it. And she originally didn't have the white accent parts in. And then she's like, do you think it needs it? I was like, what do you think? I think it needs it. Okay. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you. And then she got done with it, and she's like, I wish I would have put some green in behind it. Yeah, I'm like, well, you still can. She's like, no, I can't. I'm like, okay. So it was fun working with her with that.
She did a nice job on that iris.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Thank you, Rick.
I have to tell you a story. Some of you know I lived in Siberia for about a year. So I'll get over it. Some of you may know I lived in Siberia for about a year. And
Before the boycott.
pardon, before the boycott. It was in 1998, 1990, yeah, it was 1999, before the turn of the century. Anyway, I took my family into Siberia, and as we were driving into Cyanogorsk, my wife, who loves irises, we're driving into this town, and the plane was just covered in a sea of purple irises. And she said, my wife went, wow, look at those Siberian irises. And then she realized where she was. Yeah, that's right. They are Siberian irises.
This was my collaborative. It's not round, obviously. My wife thought she might want to get into quilt making. So they gave her this project to do so she would appreciate the precision that it takes to make a quilt. So she says, well, I don't know how to go about doing this. So I laid it out and taped it, and she painted it. So that was the story behind that. So once she found that out, she decided not to go quilting.
So was that done with the aid of masking tape, or can she paint a straight line like that?
No, I laid it out and taped it. So now I guess you can appreciate what it takes to build a quilt.
Other bowls here.
Yeah.
You got some,
So
I think Bob Gockenauer made one thing, or at least somebody with RG initials.
So name's Carl Brockwitz, new member of the club and a member of Keystone for a long time. I brought a couple things along. This is a little spalted maple bowl, 16th thick. This was maybe the fourth thing I've ever turned. I'm sorry.
Can you hold it up between the light and the camera? I mean, raise it up over your head.
Now you're good.
Jump up and down on one.
Oh,
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't know if you're screw, so,
So you're off camera there.
Oh, how about you stand still, hold it still?
Yeah, sorry.
That's it.
so there's a little knot inside that didn't appear until it was about a 16th from there. So, c'est la vie. But my goal was to get to this point or a little thinner with this material. As you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get it to go there. And that's a little bit of oil. So that's all there is for finish on that.
Did you do that green or is it dry?
This was dry. This was dry. This is a cherry birch or sweet birch, black birch, pick a name, they're all synonymous. Spalted. This is generally dry, but it came out of the log right to turn. It was once turned, hence its oval status. But the idea was a gift, but I decided that it was, too muddy in the grain. So it'll be something else. I don't know if
Have any cracks in it?
it's very stable, no cracks.
Wow.
No cracks. Those logs were 10, 12 years old. So they were well dried. But
Stand a birch behind my house, every one of them's cracked.
yeah, it can, the cherry birch or sweet birch tends to be a little better. But I'm not going to swear for every one of them. This is a piece of catalpa. Fellows who have or haven't worked with this, it's a lightweight wood. It has a distinct smell, but this is what you get in color. This is a wedding gift for my niece. And it's got a eased edge sloped in with a relieved an undercut lip. So those are just some fun things for me, but I wanted to share with the group. That was a totally turning. If you're familiar with that, it's a little gathering in New York in Saratoga Springs every year, put on by the Northwest Woodturners Association. And one of their demonstrators was a German fellow, Hans Weissflog. I don't know if you're familiar with the name. I hope you are. He is the best or one of the best on the planet. He's an incredibly technical turner, very much German, absolutely the stereotype German in his skill level. His personality, he's actually a pretty funny guy. He's an interesting guy. Chat. So I had an opportunity. There was one person, the first turner that ever impacted me or made anything that I saw that I wanted to own or have the opportunity to play with was Hans Weissflog. He got into me. You know, we all have something speaks to us. So you can tell by my last name, I'm German heritage. My grandfather was a pioneer with Bell Labs. Technical is in my blood. So Hans is, if you haven't seen his work, go to his website, look up Hans Weissflog. This is African blackwood and boxwood. I have not, this closes completely, but to make my life a little easier, I'm not closing it all the way. And then inside, are you able to zoom at all into this? If you can see the inside of this, and the same with this one.
And I'll show the outside again.
Now you're seeing right through it. So these bits, these circles, are about a 16th in diameter, or thickness, excuse me. And this is a layer of African blackwood inside. It's a sphere. So he created a hollow sphere, glued into a boxwood sphere perfectly, and then perfectly glued that into another African blackwood sphere. It's just 3 layers assembled, glued. Perfect. Come see. how tight and beautiful this is. You cannot find the flaws. This is done by hand and eye, gentlemen. This is not done with jigs. There's no machine that's doing this. This is done by hand and eye by a man who is more than half blind in one eye and nearly 3/4 blind in the other eye. It's amazing. I'm sorry. There are multiple diameters on the outside. When you put this together, set it on this. There's a stand here.
Set it on there. Oh,
So the inside of this is the same as the inside of this. If you're able to get to how close it is. The lighting's a little tough.
yeah, line stuff.
Again, you can see through. There's the rings turned inside, and then the grooves on the outside. African blackwood. The idea here is this will sit on this. Again, the joint in the middle, I don't want to close it right now. It's a little snug, and I'm not willing to risk the 5 figures. But when you look at this, there's no, this is asymmetrical. It's a sphere, but it's asymmetrical. None of these spheres lands in a place where if the joint is parallel to the floor, any of these make sense. This is all done by eye and hand.
And put it down on the table so nobody knocks it off.
They won't. In here, between, is carved out. There's a lip in each of these circles. Up underneath, there's a recess. If you screw this up, or screw this up, or screw this up, the whole thing gets thrown out and start over. Fortunately, it's only happened to him once or twice. It's just, this is probably the most amazing piece I've ever had a chance to see. I've seen a lot of things. I've touched a lot of things in this world. I had a bison head I shared here about a year and a half ago, Derek Weidman piece, which is one of his greatest pieces. So I just wanted, this is an opportunity to see something. This is a 5-figure piece, and it's a museum piece, and it's before it ends up there, it's in my collection, but I just wanted people to get a chance to see this. And please, if you want to see it up close, I'll be happy to share it, but please let me pick it up and show it to you, if that's okay. And I'll be done in a second. This is a little demo piece. Hans did a demo at Bucks. While he was here, he came through Bucks for Totally Turning. This is a boxwood piece. You can see the lid. Trying to get some light behind it so you see through it. It's the same concept. It's asymmetric on the outside. I'm just going to flip it over. Inside, the circles are symmetrical. This is one layer. There's no gluing or anything assembling. He turns the outside first. He has a jig. It's a asymmetric jig, 2 pegs off to the side, cut into the boxwood, and a sacrificial jam chuck behind it. So he's able to make the first cut with the center cut here, and then it's just going eccentrically, and does each one. Again, by eye, no jig. These are all even. He goes in and does the same thing on this side. His tool is 6/1000. It is it's not even a millimeter. It's about a millimeter tall. It's tapered. He goes in, out. There's no twist. There's no lift. He has to go straight in, straight out, or it shatters. The guy is all but legally blind and does these. And this was his demo. And fortunately, I had the good luck of buying the right ticket for the demo prize. Pissed off a few people, but say la vie. It's just I just think this is a really neat piece to see if you want to pick this up and take a look at it. So there we are. I will stop now. Thank you.
One of the things you said that I'd just like to follow up on, and that is that turning is just as much about feel and touch as it is about eyesight.
Absolutely.
So when you say, well, he's half blind, well, that might be to his advantage, because then he's actually relying on many more
All of his other senses.
than just a.
What gets me with Hans's work is that the confidence in his ability, and that he backs it up, because every detail here, there's no screwing up, because it gets thrown away if there's one mistake. So there's a relief underneath. There's the in between. There are multiple ports, each set of circles. It's all there. And the assembly of 3 layers. You can't find a flaw, fellas. You can't. That's what's so unique about this guy. He is just that good. And when he had his site in the past, his work was very good. And I think it has gotten better. And this is one of his favorite pieces. He calls this his best to date. So there we are. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Carl.
Absolutely.
Described appropriate pieces.
Thank you.
About half the people in Florida are legally blind.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the stuff up here is mine, so I'll just give you a minute with it. I brought in a lot of magnet boxes because I'm going to show you actually some things about box making and also about installing magnets. But all of these are different. These ones up front here are what I'm currently doing, where the magnets go this way. These ones back here are mostly hidden magnets, 3-part blanks when you can't see the magnets, but they're there buried in the wood. This one is one where it won't stay on if you put it cross grain. It'll only stay on with the grain. So there. And this one has a single exposed magnet there. So there. That's what I'm going to demo. I'm going to demo the preparation of blanks and getting the fit for boring for the magnets after the break. Oh, there's another one. Okay.
Yeah. This is my second bowl, so it's a learning experience for me. I did collaboration with my wife also. I came home, she likes to do knitting and other work, and she said, well, why don't you make me a yarn bowl? So I did. She helped me with a little bit of the design. This is a cherry wood from our back on our property. It's been drying for about a year. It's not totally dry, but it's pretty close. I learned a lot. It's very thick on the bottom. I did that on purpose so it would sit and not get knocked over too easily. And by far the hardest was the loop, and that took a lot of time to get that where it is now. But it seems to work all right. The wood grain I just think is amazing on this cherry. It's finished with butcher block oil, which is mineral spirits and beeswax. So it came out really nice, and this is the first one that's actually smooth. The other one I did was very rough and lots of marks in it. So it was a little green, so it's a little out of round and doesn't sit real perfectly, but I like it. It's my second one, so I'm pleased with where that's at. So
Talk to us about, you said that hardest part was cutting the swirl. How'd you do it?
that one, I went through and did forced a bit, small one, 3/8 here, and then 1/4 inch around so far, and then went back to 3/8 for the rest of the way. Used a coping saw to cut all the little edges off in between each of the forced a bit, and then use my little bits and just worked away at it until I got pretty smooth, and then hand sanded from there. It's took a while. Yeah, so I'll leave that up here.
Mr. Grockenauer, you brought something.
I got a cherry burl. It came from the lady that head of the Pennsylvania Parks and Forests. And she comes to see me every year to my apartment and picks out the bowl she wants. And she happened to find this someplace and brought it along and give it to me. And I use Liberin finish. I don't know if anybody ever used that. I think it's excellent finish. It's Liberon.
I thought you always used to use salad bowl finish, Bob. When did you
Oh,
change?
this is better.
This is better.
Oh, yeah.
When did you change over to this stuff?
Oh, a couple years ago.
Oh, you can get secrets from us.
Where do you get it?
Packard.
Get it online.
So that's it. I just I'll show that.
That's a wax, isn't it?
No.
No?
No, I don't think.
Liquid. Liquid oil.
Yeah, actually, I looked tonight what was the one it's made from that wasn't on the bottle.
Anybody else have a show and tell or challenge piece or anything to show here? In that case, we'll take a break